"Pack your things and get out," my stepmother ordered, while my half-siblings smirked. "This is our house now." I almost laughed. The deed in my purse said otherwise, and tomorrow, they'd be the ones packing. The funeral guests had barely left when Patricia showed her true colors. My father's body was probably still warm in the ground, and here she was, standing in the foyer of my childhood home, pointing at the door like I was some unwelcome stranger. "My name is Elena, and I'm 29 years old. My father had just died after a short battle with pancreatic cancer, 8 weeks from diagnosis to death. 8 weeks of watching the strongest man I knew wither away to nothing. 8 weeks of sleeping in hospital chairs and holding his hand through the pain. And now, less than 2 hours after we'd thrown dirt on his coffin, I was being evicted by the woman he'd married 15 years ago." "You heard me," Patricia said, her black funeral dress making her look like the vulture she was. "This is a family home, and you're not family anymore." Behind her, my half-siblings, Trevor and Haley, lounged against the staircase. At 19 and 17, they'd inherited their mother's cruel streak and their father's, whoever he was, lazy disposition. Neither had bothered visiting Dad in the hospital. Too busy, they'd said. Trevor had a gaming tournament. Haley had a pool party. "I'm not family?" I asked, setting down the funeral program I'd been clutching. Dad's smiling face stared up at me from the cover. "I'm his daughter." "Were," Trevor corrected, examining his phone. "Past tense. And Mom's right. This house belongs to the real family now." "The will reading isn't until next week," I said carefully, though my heart was racing. Patricia laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the marble floors. "Oh, honey, do you really think your father would leave anything to you? You who abandoned him to live your big city life? You who only visited on holidays?" "I moved for my job. I'm a pediatric surgeon." "Exactly." She snapped her fingers. "Too important for family. Too busy saving other people's children to care about your own father." "Well, he saw through you. He told me everything was mine. The house, the business, all of it." "He told you." I kept my voice level, though inside I was seething. "When? During the 3 minutes you spent at his bedside? Or was it between your shopping trips while he was dying?" Her face flushed. "How dare you?" "No, how dare you?" I stepped forward. "I took a leave of absence. I spent every moment with him." "Where were you? Getting your nails done? Planning your next husband?" The slap came fast, Patricia's ring catching my cheek. The 15-carat diamond Dad had bought her for their 10th anniversary. I remembered because I'd gone with him to pick it out, watched him spend a fortune to make her happy. "Get out," she hissed. "You have 1 hour to pack your things. Take only what's yours, though good luck proving anything in this house belongs to you." Haley giggled from the stairs. "Can I have her room, Mom? It has the best view." "Of course, sweetheart. We'll redecorate tomorrow. Something less sterile." They'd already divided up my life. The room where I'd grown up, where Dad had read me bedtime stories and helped with homework, they were already planning to erase me from it. 1 hour, I agreed, touching my stinging cheek. "That's all I need." Patricia smirked, victory gleaming in her eyes. "Smart girl. Run back to your fancy hospital and your important job. This is our home now." I climbed the stairs slowly, passing Trevor and Haley. Neither moved aside, forcing me to squeeze past them. Their cologne and perfume, expensive brands paid for by my father, made me nauseous. In my room, I didn't pack clothes or photos or any of the things they expected. Instead, I went to my old desk and pulled out a manila envelope from the bottom drawer, hidden beneath years of report cards and childhood drawings. The envelope I'd been carrying in my purse all day, but had placed here during the reception for safekeeping. Inside were 3 documents. 3 pieces of paper that were about to change everything. But first, I had a performance to finish. I grabbed a small suitcase and threw in some clothes, making sure to be loud about it. Let them think I was defeated. Let them believe they'd won. I even forced myself to cry as I dragged the suitcase down the stairs. Not difficult, considering I'd just buried my father. Patricia was waiting in the foyer, arms crossed, flanked by her spawn. "That's all?" she asked, eyeing my single suitcase. "You said only what's mine," I replied, making my voice small and broken. I'll send for the rest later. If that's okay." "It's not," she said flatly. "Whatever you leave behind becomes ours. I'm having the locks changed tonight." "I understand." I moved toward the door, then paused. "Can I at least say goodbye? To the house?" Patricia rolled her eyes. "Make it quick. I have plans tonight." "Plans?" On the day of her husband's funeral. The mask wasn't just slipping, it was completely off. I walked through the house one last time, not for sentiment, but for strategy. The kitchen where Patricia had burned every meal until Dad hired a cook. The living room she'd redecorated 3 times in 5 years, each time more expensive than the last. The study where Dad had built his business empire, working 18-hour days to give us all a better life. "Time's up," Patricia called. "Get out before I call the police." I returned to the foyer, suitcase in hand. "Goodbye, Patricia." "Trevor." "Haley." "Don't come back," Trevor said without looking up from his phone. "Ever." "Oh, I'll be back," I said quietly. "Tomorrow, actually." Patricia's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" "The will reading isn't until next week, like I said. But I'll be back tomorrow." I opened the door, letting in the cool evening air. "With the sheriff." "The sheriff?" Haley laughed. "For what? To arrest us for living in our own house." "No," I said, pulling the first document from my purse. "To enforce this eviction notice. You have 24 hours to vacate the premises." The silence was beautiful. Even Trevor looked up from his phone. "What are you talking about?" Patricia snatched the paper from my hand. As she read, her face went from confident to confused to ashen. "That's the deed to this house," I explained helpfully. "As you can see, it's in my name. Has been for 3 years." "That's impossible," she whispered. "This is our house." "Robert's house." "Was Dad's house," I corrected. "Until his first cancer diagnosis 3 years ago. The one you claimed was just stress. The one you said he was exaggerating. Remember?" She did remember. I could see it in her eyes. Dad had been sick before, and she'd been too busy with her tennis lessons to care. "During that illness," I continued, "Dad and I had a long talk about the future. About how certain people in his life seemed more interested in his money than his health. So he made some changes. Legal changes." "You're lying," Trevor said, but his voice cracked. "Grandma left this house to Dad. It's family property." "Exactly," I smiled. "And I'm family. Real family. The kind that shows up for chemo treatments, not just Christmas presents." I pulled out the second document. "This is the deed to Dad's business. Also in my name as of 3 years ago. Turns out, when you're a pediatric surgeon, people trust you with important things. Like their legacy." Patricia's hands were shaking now. But Robert said he promised. "He promised to take care of you," I said. "And he did. That ring on your finger? Worth more than most people's houses. The car in the garage? Paid off. The jewelry in your safe? All yours. But this house? The business? Those were never yours, Patricia. You were just borrowing them." "You can't do this," she screamed, lunging at me. "I'm his wife. I have rights." I sidestepped her easily. "You had rights. Past tense, as Trevor would say. And speaking of Trevor," I pulled out the third document. "This is a cease and desist order for the credit cards you've all been using. Company cards, every one of them. As the owner of the business, I've canceled them all. Effective immediately." Haley pulled out her phone, presumably to check her shopping apps. Her gasp told me the cancellations had already gone through. "You little." Patricia raised her hand again, but this time I caught her wrist. "Touch me again, and assault charges get added to the eviction," I said calmly. "Now you have 24 hours to pack your things and leave. Take only what you can prove you purchased with your own money. I'll be generous and assume the clothes and jewelry are yours. But the furniture, the art, the cars except for your Mercedes, those stay." "Where are we supposed to go?" Haley wailed. "I hear the Marriott downtown is nice," I suggested. "Oh wait, you'll need money for that. Maybe Trevor can get a job? I know gaming doesn't pay well, but I'm sure he has other skills." Trevor's face was purple with rage. "You think you're so smart. We'll contest this. We'll sue. With what money?" I asked. "The cards are canceled. The bank accounts were in the business name, my business now. And Patricia's personal account? I'm guessing that's been drained by her spending habits." From Patricia's expression, I'd guessed right. "Dad's lawyer will help us," she said desperately. "He knows the truth." "Mr. Morrison? Dad's lawyer of 30 years? The one who helped him set up these transfers? The one who warned him about gold diggers and made sure everything was ironclad?" I shook my head. "Good luck with that." I stepped outside, then turned back one last time. "Oh, and Patricia? The staff has been informed of the change in ownership. Maria, James, the gardeners, they all know you're no longer the lady of the house. They'll be here tomorrow to make sure you don't take anything that isn't yours." "This isn't over," Patricia snarled. "Yes," I said firmly. "It is. It was over the moment you slapped me in my father's house on the day of his funeral. It was over when you showed my dying father exactly who you really were. And it was definitely over when you decided I wasn't family. I closed the door on their shocked faces and walked to my car. Inside, I finally let myself really cry. Not for them. They deserved everything coming to them. But for my father, who'd spent his last years seeing through their greed and planning accordingly. The next morning, I arrived at the house with Sheriff Coleman and 2 deputies. Patricia had tried to barricade herself inside, but that's the thing about changing locks. It doesn't work when you don't own the property. Their exit was undignified. Patricia screaming about lawyers and rights. Trevor trying to stuff gaming equipment into garbage bags. Haley sobbing about how unfair life was as she dragged designer suitcases across the lawn. The neighbors watched from their windows. Patricia had lorded her position as Mrs. Robert Winters over them for years, and now they witnessed her fall from grace in real time. "This is cruel," she spat at me as the deputies escorted her out. "Throwing out a grieving widow." "Grieving?" I laughed. "You were planning my eviction during his funeral. The only thing you're grieving is the gravy train ending." She tried one last manipulation. "Your father would be ashamed of you." "My father," I said clearly so all the neighbors could hear, "knew exactly who you were. That's why he made sure you'd be taken care of, but never in control. He loved me enough to protect what our family built from people who only saw dollar signs." As their overloaded cars pulled away, to where, I neither knew nor cared, Maria appeared beside me. The housekeeper had worked for our family for 20 years, had helped raise me after my mother died. "Your father would be proud, Mija," she said softly. "He worried you would be too soft, too forgiving." "He taught me well," I replied. "Both how to save lives and how to protect what matters." "What will you do with the house?" she asked. I looked at my childhood home, finally free of the poison that had infected it. "First, we're going to clean it. Every trace of them gone. Then," I smiled, "then we're going to make it a place Dad would love again. A real home." It took 6 months to undo Patricia's gaudy renovations, to restore the house to something that honored both my parents' memory. I kept Maria and the rest of the staff, giving them the raises Dad had always wanted to but Patricia had vetoed. The business thrived under proper management. Turns out, Patricia had been siphoning funds for years through Trevor and Haley's consulting fees for work they never did. With those leaks plugged and competent people in charge, profits soared. I heard through the grapevine that Patricia tried to contest the will when it was read. But Dad had been thorough. He'd left her a modest trust, enough to live on if she was careful, not enough to maintain her lifestyle. The kids got even less, just enough to finish college if they chose to go. The real salt in the wound. The trust came with conditions. Drug tests, employment verification, financial counseling, all the things Patricia had mocked others for needing. Last I heard, she was living in a 2-bedroom apartment, working as a receptionist at a dental office. Trevor was bagging groceries. Haley had to drop out of her expensive private school and get her first job at 17. Sometimes I feel a twinge of guilt. Then I remember Patricia's face as she ordered me out of my own home, Trevor's sneer as he called me, "Not real family," Haley's glee at taking my room. The guilt evaporates quickly. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But sometimes it's served with eviction papers and a side of reality. Patricia thought she'd won the lottery when she married my father. She never understood that in our family, you don't win anything, you earn it. And on the day of his funeral, she finally learned the difference between being married to money and actually having it. Between living in a house and owning it. Between playing family and being family. The house is peaceful now. I've moved back in, at least temporarily. Sometimes I stand in the foyer where Patricia tried to exile me and smile. She was right about one thing. This is a family home. And I'm the only family left. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.